All right, there we go. I think I am live now, and guess what? I have access to some new fun toys for the next update. Except currently, I do not have anything for the actual like lizardmen and new beastmen units, but I do have access to Thorek, and I will be testing out a bunch of things. For example, some fun gyrocopter shenanigans. But before I get into that, let's go ahead and get some people in here with a little bit of advertising, and then I can start jumping into the various changes. All right, so interestingly enough, the changes actually don't really impact a lot of factions aside from greenskins, lizardmen and beastmen, of course, and the dwarves. But aside from that, there actually weren't too many changes. So I just really need to get this advertising done, and then I can jump right on in. All right, there we go. Advertising is done. I can see I'm already getting the trickle of viewership. Wonderful. But yeah, all in all, the changes, it is mostly directed towards the four factions. The greenskin sort of makes sense, but it's probably going to be a bit disappointing to many people that there won't be any changes to their favorite factions and so on. But I personally feel like with the changes, it should be more or less a pretty different meta than what we are used to. That's right, greenskin nerfs. Let's go ahead and jump into that first. So here we go. First of all, Greenskin's Grom, his abilities and items are slightly different now. Lucky Banner lasts less time. It gives less melee attack now too. Yeah, here's Grom. Here are his stats. His prices are unchanged, but the abilities are nerfed. So Lucky Banner, less melee attack, less duration. If you look at Language of the Boys, its duration is also much shorter. And if you look at the Degradun's ear, it's going to be less leadership. So all in all, he got nerfs across the board, mostly with how he combos with trolls and so on. So he's going to be a little bit less useful there. Maybe people are going to start taking Black Orc big bosses again. Hey, and there we go. We got people. Chosen One. Hello, Loopy. Hello, Tiago. Fanatics. Yes. So Fanatics have also been changed. They now have a, and actually I can load into the game real quick to show it off. Yeah, we can see Elf Lords, although from what I was checking out the other day, there doesn't seem to be many changes, but we can double check. There were like a few price changes. I think Drycha got a nerf to Poison is now 15% all round. So if you take a look at the conveniently placed Poison stat here, it's now 15% across the board instead of 20. Now you're going to notice with Fanatics, there's a 15-second cooldown on it, and you have to be in combat. And that's going to be pretty rough for Fanatics, especially if they're getting charged by cavalry. Your Night Goblins just cannot, they do not do well against cavalry anymore. And up against elite units like Sword Masters of Hoth, you can see they rout off before they even get to use their Fanatics. So hopefully they come back. But nope, it looks like they're gone. But essentially that's it. They just have to fight in combat for 15 seconds before they can cast. And then the second cast needs you to be in combat for 45 seconds, which is insanely long. And that's going to make Fanatics way worse. And specifically cavalry charging these guys is going to be very impactful. Loopy prepares to be disappointed. Aspect of the Dread Knight gives magic attacks now. Yes, I think I heard about that. Yeah, here we go. Aspect of the Dread Knight. Magical damage. This is huge. Easy access to magic damage. And it causes fear and terror, so it's not completely useless if they don't have ethereal units. That one's pretty big. For the other Greenskin nerfs, let's see. Let's bring up my list. Yeah, so skirmishers are more expensive. Forest Goblin Spiders are more expensive, all by 25, except for the wolf chariots, which remain untouched. Aside from that, the ROR Rogue Idol has been moved to missile monsters and beasts, so it's just sitting nice and lonely in that section, but that's fine. And yeah, I do have ogres now, which means that once we get tournaments for the new DLC, there'll probably be meme tournaments where you can bring ogres, and that should be pretty cool. All right, so lots of questions here. Elves are bored and disappointed. Sounds about right. But yeah, so Fanatics can't delete elite units easily without support, and they can't delete cavalry easily without support either. Did they change the old unit cards? Yes, they did. If you look at the trolls, River Trolls and Stone Trolls have new unit cards. The Rogue Idol and the Pump Wagons all look nice and different. And the Feral Wyvern has also been changed to look different. Yeah, that's right. No more Fanatics 100 to 0 your Grumbling Guard. I think a lot of people will be happy about this, but I think it more or less takes Fanatics out of the game, which, yeah, it's fine. You can't have everything see crazy use in the game, and it should be a nice mix-up. I also forgot, Boar Cavalry is faster now. Look at these guys. They got 70 speed. Amazing. But yeah, that's about it. They're a little bit faster than cold ones at least, and that's about it. It's very sad Lizardmen got buffed, and DLC before High Elf or Dark Elf did. Well, all the factions got tons of DLC. I'm sure it's fine. Dwarves probably count to greenskins now? Ah, yes, the namesake of the video. Let's take a quick look at dwarves. Thorek Ironbrow. You're going to see his stats are 45-45. Doesn't seem very good, but he actually has a lot of AP damage. And because of that, he can actually outduel a lot of lords. His AP ratio is actually very similar to Grombrindle, who got a nerf. Grombrindle no longer has Flash Bomb, and he is still very expensive, so I would not expect anyone to take him anymore. As for Ungrim Iron Fist, you'll see his price has changed by 8 gold, and that's because Deadly Onslaught now costs 150 instead of 158. A bit of a strange change, but that's about it. Before we dive into some dwarf custom battles, I'll go over the other changes. If you take a look at Lizardmen, Red-Crested Skinks are cheaper now, and their Frenzy is different. Frenzy now gives you armor-piercing percentage damage. And more melee attack, but strangely enough, they nerfed the melee attack of Frenzy units by 2 to counteract this change. So Frenzy units are more or less the same, but for Red-Cresteds, they are cheaper. Chameleon Skinks are 50 gold more expensive. Ancient Salamander is cheaper than the Solar Engine, while the Solar Engine is now 100 gold more expensive. RIP Solar Engines, but I think they will still see use. Otherwise, Lizardmen builds are still more or less the same, but Chameleon Skinks being more expensive is going to hurt. Sora Scar Veteran 2 might have gone a damage nerf, but this is yet to be unconfirmed. Here's the damage value though, and if you want to check it out yourself, you can. If we take a look at Drycha, this is the only change I could find for Wood Elves, except for... Actually, there were a few other changes. But if we take a look at Drycha, she's actually more expensive now. She costs 1,000 base. Hello, Zypher. At Enticity, did they change the Skaven unit cards as well? They did. Basically, all the recent DLC units. You can see Stag Knights are changed. Zotes, the pictures are different. And Poison units, actually, they tend to cost more now. So Glade Riders actually are 825 but that doesn't really matter much when it comes to Wood Elves. It is a little bit of a hit though, so Wood Elves, they won't be as powerful as they once were. For other changes, like the Fey Enchantress, she is the same. The price might be different, but that's because spells are now actually priced differently. Spells actually go up by tiers now, so it's 100, 150, and 200, but they do get cheaper the more spells you take, so it's not exactly the most consistent thing. Paladins are the same too, the price is different, but that's because Deadly Onslaught got buffed by 8 gold. So otherwise he's the same though. And if you take a look at the usual kit that you will take with a Paladin, he's going to be costing basically the same amount as far as I can tell. Let's see, Sigvald. Unchanged. He is, by the looks of it, exactly the same as he was before. And I think that's about it. Oh, yes, and Skaven. Skaven unit cards are different. So, where are they? Here we go. We got Wolf Rats, the pictures, Mutant Rat Ogres, Brood Horrors, but more importantly for balance, Gutter Runners and Gutter Runner Slingers. I think they're a little bit more expensive now for the poison variants. So it looks like they finally increased the prices of poison units since it did get buffed recently. So cool. Let's see. Does he beat Sigvald with the runes? He actually does not. You need an engineer to support him, and then he will beat Sigvald. But let's go into some fun shenanigans with Thorek real quick. Now, if you take everything, he's actually fairly expensive, but I would say you probably don't need Forge Fire. You probably don't need ITP, and you might not even need this ability. It will give you about 20% faster rune recharge, which is not, it's nice, but it's nothing too crazy. So if you take Thorek with like 3 runes and you cut this ability, he's actually fairly cheap. Cheaper than Grombrindle, and he does bring mass and rune casting. So that's pretty nice. It's not a damage nerf to Scar Veteran, it's a rebalance due to Frenzy change. I see. When I loaded into battle though, I think it was actually a little bit lower than it was before. But I could be wrong. Oh, Dark Elf buffs? Did Dark Elves get buffed? Let's take a quick look. The Dread Spheres, Hellebronai, they are 50 gold cheaper. And if there were any stat changes, I did not see them. But more or less prices seem very similar. Now, on to actual testing. Here we go. So we got Thorek, right? And then we got, you know, the usual high elf infantry, elite infantry. And then let's go ahead and slap down 2 eagles. As for the caster, I would like to take a high magic caster. And we're going to take Tempest, just to sort of show the crazy shenanigans that can go on. Let's go ahead and take an engineer too. He does have Flash Bomb now at a long range cast, and it's actually insane, guys. You will see in just a second. But yeah, I think this is more or less everything I want. So let's go ahead and load into the game, and we're going to see some pretty crazy changes. Now, I don't think dwarves are going to be exploding into the meta by any means. The rune system actually isn't that powerful, but I think we will be seeing some cool dwarf builds. Hydra's minus 50 gold. Oh, would you look at that? Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Oh, gutter runners are cheaper? Oh, would you look at that? I'm surprised, but I guess no one was taking them. By the way, hammerers got nerfed by 100 gold, unfortunately. And I'm not sure if they got buffed, but we will find out in due time. Let's see, the lore of passive for Esh and sorcerers also nerfed with the poison. I'm not sure, I'll have to check it out. But it seems like Marathi got buffed, but anyways. Let's go ahead and jump into this game. So Master Rune of Negation. You can overcast it, but it's no longer AoE, so it actually got nerfed there, unfortunately. But this rune right here, plus 45% speed. Let's go ahead and see how that plays out real quick. So if I fly any closer here, they will be throwing down a Tempest onto my Gyrocopters, and usually this would be pretty bad. But with the speed boost, you can see my Gyrocopters still have 90 speed despite getting hit by the Tempest. And with that, you can actually do some pretty cool avoidance maneuvers even when the Tempest lands. And you can see here, the AI is actually having a bit of a hard time with its eagles actually catching my gyrocopters because they have 153 speed. Actually, one of the fastest units in the game now. It's actually insane. Not to mention Flash Bomb, if I cast it in the middle of all this infantry, it actually hits all of them. And they are now all slowed by 60%. So all in all, I'd say this is probably the most crazy rune out of the bunch. Just giving speed boost to your gyrocopters, it's just insane. Now another Tempest, it is gonna get cast, and this will actually catch my gyrocopters this time. But nevertheless, I think point proven with the speed buff. You can do some pretty crazy things. Now that's not it. There are other things you can do here. If you go for a mass ranger build, they actually have 33 speed compared to 33 of Sword Masters of Hoeth. So they already are fairly fast compared to other infantry, at least armored infantry. So against chaos, you might actually see some interesting kite action for the dwarves. So let's take a quick look here. I have my rangers. They're going to fire off a volley towards the Sword Masters of Hoeth. And then I'm actually going to pull them back because they have 48 speed, which means that they are moving about as fast as you would expect for Skaven. And essentially you can just kite out normally with this sort of speed. And if anything gets too close, you can also use your engineers to throw down a flash bomb. And that will also slow down infantry to a crawl. And with that, you can actually get in a lot of free hits. Now, if they do have mobility, I imagine this would be much harder to do. But I think there's potential here for some interesting dwarf kite builds. So that's another idea. But the rune doesn't last forever. It does eventually run out, and you will get slower rangers again. But by taking 2 engineers and double flash bomb, it could be quite scary. And I will definitely be trying that out as soon as I get some opponents to play against. But yes, let's see here. What's going on? Yeah, Charybdis. Rip Charybdis. I think I'm saying that wrong. But anyways. Cardibris? No. Whatever. Charybdis. Oh, okay, it is Charybdis. Anyways, yeah, it looks like I think these guys are slightly cheaper or something. Chill of Centaur used to be 2,000, I think. I'm not sure, but that seems more or less the same. Someone said Marathi is buffed, I think. I'm not sure what exactly, but I'll go ahead and hover some abilities for you guys. Was this always -10, -10? Maybe that was what changed, but everything seems more or less similar. I would trust Ice Power to have a better idea on what the buffs are. It's all -50 gold? Ah, I see. But yeah, so that's mostly it. How much does Marathi cost with the standard kit? Let's go ahead and see. What do you usually bring on Marathi? As much as I play Warhammer, I actually don't usually know what her standard kit is. This is without Deadly Onslaught. If you take her with Deadly Onslaught, there you go. Her debuffs went from -9 to -10. I see. It seems like there was a general standardization for that, where they made a lot of these sort of round to even numbers. Not sure why, but more or less seems fine. Cut Deadly Onslaught and the Dark passive. There you go. This is Marathi at 2,300. She seems more or less the same, maybe cheaper. I'm not sure. Yeah, Marathi buff would be a bit strange. She's actually fairly meta, but I don't think she got any insane buffs. But that's more or less it. One interesting thing about ogres, they are actually beasts in combat. we take a look at, let's see here. Let's go ahead and get a Night Goblin War Boss and 2 units of Black Orcs. One thing you can do, these Ogres with dual weapons are actually insane. If you see how they trade up against Black Orcs, I have fairly high hopes for Ogres being able to do okay. 5 gold cheaper, oh yeah. It's really weird. So CA, for anyone who missed it, they did rebalance a lot of the prices to be more even, which did change prices by like very small amounts, but it's more or less inconsequential. Now, if you see these Ogres charging into Black Orcs, they actually do fairly well for themselves. This one that isn't getting attacked by the War Boss actually trades about evenly with Black Orcs until they rout off. It's mostly just because of their crazy charge bonus, but it's actually pretty good, especially considering they only cost 700. But a small note, we probably won't be seeing Ogres in competitive too much unless it's a meme tournament. Is Marathi Soul Stealer 16 or 18 Winds of Magic? Let's see. If they change that, that would be big, since a lot of people rely on that last Soul Stealer to patch them up at the end of the battle. Ogres with dual weapons equal Minos? Not sure. But cool, let's look at Marathi. It is still 16, so her Soul Stealer is unchanged. There we go. If I drop it, it actually does hit the Black Orcs, so that's actually fairly interesting. It seems like spells are sort of hitting a lot easier. Usually you would need the middle of the unit for the spell. Like, you would need to have the spell overlap with their banner for it to actually hit. But you might have to confirm this, guys, but by the looks of it, it seems like spells are still hitting even if it clips the unit. Let's see. Yeah, look at that. This is clearly not touching the Black Orcs. Like, it's not fully overlapping, but it still hits them with the Soul Stealer. So that means that all AoE spells might be a little bit better. What if I do this? It's just touching one unit, and look at that, Soul Stealer still hitting. I'm pretty sure that's new. If it's not, maybe I'm just going crazy, but that's actually very impactful for AoE spells. I could be wrong though. Someone please confirm. What's it? Dark Elf won't be F tier then. Yes, Greenskin nerfs. We'll go over it again since we've had a couple people come in. Grom got his abilities nerfed across the board and he still costs the same. Lower, it lasts less time. This one is less leadership. This one is less time and melee attack. So those are the Grom changes. Flock of Doom OP. Yeah. Well, actually, so one thing about it really makes the dwarf flash bombs insane, because if you take a look at the flash bombs, you can actually hit all the units, even though it definitely does not hit their hitbox. Must be a bug. Oh, I hope so. Because then if you can just clip one unit and still hit them, Final Transmutation, Soul Stealer, like all those spells would be insane. They would be absolutely insane. But look, take a look at this AoE right here. This doesn't even hit either of these units, right? It's not even close, that AoE. But if I flash bomb this guy, guess what? It hits both of the Black Orcs. So, you know, it could be a permanent change. This is a beta build, so it's all subject to change, but very interesting. Your spells should, like, if this keeps up, your spells will be landing very easily now, which that's something for sure. Oh my goodness. I already see the rage in chat. Everyone's going crazy. But yeah, greenskins, they got changed. Fanatics are actually much less usable now, and I can go ahead and demonstrate that real quick. So if we take a look at some Dowie and then get some Longbeards and then go to the greenskins and get some Fanatics, we're going to see that they are not nearly as good as they were before. Map wide Soul Stealers, let's go. Oh man. I imagine you just get a cavalry charge where you knock one of their infantry into the AoE and you hit the whole unit. Just insane. Flash bomb ability is bugged? I hope so. But as of right now, it can pretty easily hit a lot of units. You hope they change it back? Well, we'll see. It is all subject to change, but Fanatics, they got nerfed. They need to be in combat for 15 seconds before they can throw out their first Fanatic volley. And when they do, it then gets a 45-second cooldown. I think Wa also got nerfed. You can see the stats here, but I'm not sure if anything is actually different there. But you can see 1 minute's worth of combat for Fanatics will basically put them at no HP. And this is up against Longbeards, basically the best case scenario. So while they can still use their Fanatics against elite infantry or cavalry, they will be much less effective. Do Berserkers beat Sisters of Slaughter? Did something change there? Let's go ahead and test it out. Let's see, Sisters of Slaughter, where you at? But yeah, so interesting thing. All the prices on casters is going to be slightly different because the spells are actually a tiny bit more expensive. So Noctilus and I assume other caster lords should be a little bit more expensive now by like, 20 gold. I think Noctilus got a nerf by 20 gold because of the Winds of Magic change, and that's about it. CA breaking their own games. Yeah, but we'll still get by. Now, someone said Berserkers against Sisters of Slaughter. Something should be going on here. Let's see, both sides charging into each other. And the Supreme Sorceress getting into the mix, but I'm sure this will be a good enough test. It seems like they actually trade fairly well, but if this seems different from what you might expect, now you know. Now you know. But here's the Sisters of Slaughter stat line. Nothing too crazy going on there by the looks of it. Frenzy got buffed. Oh, I see. If you take a look at Frenzy, a lot of the units got nerfed by 2 melee attack. I'm not sure if Berserkers got the nerf, but Frenzy got buffed by 10 melee attack. And it actually gives less base weapon strength now. So units that don't have a lot of AP are actually slightly worse with Frenzy now. It's all very minor though. I wouldn't expect many matchups to actually change. Skaven are worse than Dark Elves right now. Yeah, well, it's fine. All the factions are worse now. All of them need buffs. If you take a look at Vampire Coast, I think things are more or less the same. For those of you interested, if we take a look at Scabscrath. Oh, whoops, I think I forgot to take Scabscrath. Whoopsie daisies. I'll have to reload with that probably. They lost last time you tested them? The Sisters of Slaughter? That'd be surprising, considering how expensive they are. You didn't know they also needed melee attack. Yeah, melee. I think a lot of the melee attacks, it got nerfed by 2 for all the Frenzy units. It's really weird, but more or less, I would say units with Frenzy are basically the same. Minus 50 gold on deck droppers. Oh, how I wish. But take a look at this. Scabscrath has no casting time. It's the same. It's unnerfed. Amazing. But that's about it. Now, let's take a quick look. Deck droppers one time. Oh, they're the same price. How could you, CA? How could you? All right, now that's about it for that. Now, back to dwarves. Let's take a look at some actual spells and abilities. So Thorek, he gives 15 armor, AoE for 136 gold. It's decent. This one you probably won't need. This one you probably won't need because the range is super small. But let's go ahead and start testing out some runes and then showing off how well Thorek actually does against various lords. So real quick, if we get Malekith over here, and then let's just give him Soul Stealer, why not? Give him his, sure, give him a bunch of abilities, and then we can put down a duel here to see how well Thorek does. With the extra damage resist, he should be able to do fairly well, but we'll see. You want to see him kill Sigvald? It's actually a pretty long, grindy fight, but let's see. So this is Thorek on foot. I accidentally took him on foot, but let's go ahead and see. Now, Malekith, he does have his debuff here, but Thorek, he can give himself damage resist. And if we take a look at this, he actually did real bad versus Malekith. Actually quite bad, surprisingly bad, but that's a good first test. Wow, actually he did really bad versus Malekith. What happened, Thorek? He does have very low melee defense, but if you take him on his Anvil of Doom, he should perform a little bit better. This more or less makes sense too, because Malekith is quite the beast in combat. Let's also go ahead and test the Rune of Wrath and Ruin. So we'll take Hargoneth Executioners and Sisters of Slaughter, and then go for 2 Runesmiths, and we'll see how well Wrath and Ruin does as the new Dwarf AoE ability. And so far it seems fairly balanced. It's very similar to Vile Tide, I would say. Let's see here. Skaven were nuts, but Thwat. Yeah. Anyways. Malekith should dunk him, to be honest. Yeah, I think that more or less makes sense. Now, let's go ahead and slow all of the infantry. There we go. And then we'll throw a normal cast Wrath and Ruin on the Sisters and overcast on the Executioners. Now, the overcast, it doesn't do magic damage, but it gives AP damage. And you can see here, for those casts, these guys got quite a bit of value, 350 and let's see here, 350 and 300 respectively. So every 2 minutes, this spell can give you 300 gold worth of value, which is pretty good. Up against very expensive units like this, you might just want to have your engineer cast this twice on Sisters, and that would more or less pay for itself. But yeah, it does do quite a bit of damage to infantry. Now, this is the optimal situation. I had to slow them down, and they're fairly grouped up. Up against wider formations, I don't think it's going to be nearly as good. Also, can I just say again, Hammerers got nerfed by 100 gold, and no notable changes except for +3 melee defense. All right, now for the big test, we got Thorek against Siggy. Where is he? Sigvald. The dreaded Sigvald against dwarves. Insane regeneration. He is just a beast and very hard to take down. So we'll see how much help Thorek needs to actually kill him. And in this test, without the engineer, Thorek will lose after about a 4-minute fight. And with the engineer, he should be able to win it, just with basic flash bomb. So we sent Thorek in. On his Anvil of Doom, he also has this melee attack ability. And that's actually what's going to be making him much better against Sigvald here. This rune that gives you speed and melee attack will give him up to 69 melee attack, which will actually get past Sigvald's insane melee defense. But it's going to be a fairly close fight. Despite all of that, Thorek, he just doesn't do a lot of damage. So Sigvald actually does regenerate quite a bit. But as you can see here, he does hold his own fairly well. You can recast the Rune of Doom too to give more melee attack. And in a prolonged fight, it's going fairly well. And if Sigvald were to disengage here, you'd be able to cast even more runes. So that would be pretty good. But solo, he sadly cannot beat Sigvald, although he does give it a very good shot. You can see now Thorek, he does finally go down. And that's about it. You do get to see Sigvald's, his heal cap. But that's about how well Thorek does. Decently, but not amazingly. Yep, get the nices out of your system, guys. You want to see Hammerers versus Chaff. I heard that they did splash attacks, but it doesn't say on the tooltip. We can try it out though. Now this is Thorek with a Master Engineer. Not an entirely unexpected thing, but you can see here with the flash bomb now, plus the attack damage boost, Sigvald now only has, actually he didn't get hit by the flash bomb, but anyways, you can see with the assistance of the Master Engineer, it does work out a lot better. You can flash bomb him to reduce his melee defense by 24, and Thorek with his attack boosts will actually be able to put a bit of a hurting on Sigvald. There's also this Rune of Breaking, plus 25% damage, and it also gives you armor sundering, which is really nice. And you can see with just the constant debuffs on Sigvald, you can actually take them down with the duo. They're actually doing a little bit worse than they usually do, but you can see here, with 2 heroes you can take out Sigvald. And with not an uncommon duo, this should be fairly nice for dwarves, I would say. That's right, Sigvald is still fabulous indeed. Now, someone said hammerers. I think, let's see here, what was it? Was it Zyphos said they do splash? Yeah. So let's test out hammerers now. Now these guys have they've always had a bit of a rough time, just because of how expensive they were, and the fact that they couldn't do too amazingly in, let's see here, yeah, hammers. They always had a hard time actually getting value, because they don't have shields. They will get shot up fairly quickly, and it's generally pretty rough for them. But apparently they got splash attacks, so they should be slightly better in combat now. But in testing, I haven't seen anything too notable, but we will test it out. At Enticity, did CA fix a bug with unlimited spells and abilities? I'm not sure. I'll have to test that out, but quick test, hammers against Sigvald and some Chaos Warrior great weapons, they actually don't do very well. Now, chariots will also be hitting your hammers in this situation, and because of that, it doesn't seem like they are too great. I'm not really loving the hammerers in this situation, especially because Chaos Warriors are so much cheaper. Of course, Sigvald was helping, but it's still not exactly the best performance, since Dwarf Infantry can have a hard time actually getting support. Sigvald doesn't like getting flashed by a dwarf. That is amazing. By the way, guys, a very interesting thing to note. Let's go ahead and do this real quick. And then for Chaos, we'll give them a ton of great weapons. And I will take 2 engineers. So if you didn't know, engineers can restock ammunition now. And this applies to the good old blasting charges. And for those of you who were afraid of zombie bombers in the past, this is actually terrifying. So let's go ahead and line these guys up real quick. And you can see how long these hammerers can actually, oh no, not the hammers, the iron breakers can actually throw their explosives for. So let's go ahead and set this up. Let's see here, I need to stall these guys. Infantry getting in the way. But yeah, so if you take a look at the hammers, with 2 charges of restock, they go up to 66% ammunition again. And they can basically just keep throwing explosives for the entire game. Restock does have a fairly long cooldown. It's slightly longer than a minute, I think. But it's not bad. Plus, you can also give a speed boost to your hammers to allow them to reposition a tiny bit easier. And it does give pretty good value. They'll more or less just be constantly throwing explosives if you can defend them. But if they are, there will be moments where your restock is on cooldown. If you take a look at their value though, already 1200, and they're at full HP. So in very long prolonged games, you can really go crazy with your iron breakers. See, you're thinking blasting charges will be the best benefit of restock? Yeah, it's pretty good. But another interesting strat that you can do with the speed boost. Let me show this off real quick, guys. You're gonna see some broken dwarf flame tactics. Against pure infantry, dwarves are actually a bit faster now because of all their slows and speed bonuses. and it's pretty fun. I gotta say, it's pretty fun. So let's go ahead and show this off. So here we have Irondrakes that actually move at 26 speed. So normally they would get caught by these Chaos Warriors, but in the current patch that we are running on, we can indeed slow down all of the Chaos Warriors, hit them with some fire, and then speed boost them so that they can run away fairly quickly. These guys are moving at 38 speed, which is nothing to scoff at, and it actually allows them to get multiple volleys off on the Chaos Warriors. The fact that they can outpace them and the fact that the fire actually knocks them down can make it very easy to kite in this situation. And because of this, I feel like we might be seeing some dwarf range builds that deploy much further forwards so that you can get a few extra hits. But otherwise, these guys will perform more or less like the usual Irondrakes, and of course if there's cavalry or chariots, they'll still make your day pretty rough. But still very interesting. No way they remove the ammo. The extra ammo? Yeah, that'd be weird if they removed the extra ammunition. Samurai, you're trying to get the extra ammo removed? Well, the biggest thing for this is it combos well with Iron Breakers, although they did get nerfed by 50 gold. But more importantly, it really combos with Gyrocopter play. And Gyrocopters running out of ammunition is actually a fairly common thing. And I would expect that to be very useful in that situation. Let's see, draw kite. The dream is real, let's go. Yeah, although the buffs actually don't last very long, even when you overcast it. Your average speed doesn't go up by a whole ton. So it's not like you can stall out the game like crazy. Although flash bombs do have infinite casts, so I think in some quick battles there may be dwarves that actually do draw kite you. But none of us play quick battles anyways. It's all about the tournaments. Now, that's about that. Those are most of the strategies that I have going on here. If there's anything you want me to look at, I can indeed. Let's see. You think blasting charges will be the main benefit for restock? It does do fairly well versus Archon miners. It gives since these guys have the most ammunition out of all the blasting charges, they should be able to do fairly well. Engineers can give a oh, never mind. I thought they could give a fire. They could make things more vulnerable to fire, but not the engineers. Let's see, what are their resistances? Like, what do you mean? For which unit? Which is better, Hellblaster or Organ Gun? I don't know, they're both fairly similar. No one really uses either though, although I think Organ Gun sees a little bit more play. But anyways, I think that's more or less it. Yeah, just taking a look around, those are the major changes. One interesting thing that you can do though with Thorek, since he does have this Rune of Negation, if you overcast it, it lasts longer than it did before. So I'm wondering if you get something like a Gotrek in here. I'm wondering if Gotrek can really hand it to Sigvald, because he already has very high melee attack. So perhaps there's something there. But yeah, all in all though, those are basically the most extreme cases I see with the Dwarven rune system. But all in all, it doesn't seem like anything too crazy. Nothing really, like compared to some spells like Burning Head, the new rune system isn't really too crazy. So I think it's more or less fine. So Thorek, you can give damage resistance to Gotrek. You can increase his damage resist, his ward save all the way to 80. And with Thorek's buffs, he does pretty well. Let's see here. Once the Rune of Doom is gone, though, it's a little bit not as great. AI Sigvald is sort of... He's chasing my engineer right now. But it seems like Gotrek can do okay here. Although he still takes a lot of damage, so... I would say not the Sigvald counter we're looking for, especially with how many buffs I needed to give him. But good testing nonetheless. Gotrek has an animation where he attacks twice, cheater. I think a couple of units do. But generally I think it's reduced damage when they attack twice. So it more or less balances out to be the same. But I could be wrong. But let's see what else is there. Runesmiths have Forge Fire too. Very expensive though. I would say it's not very worth it. And in general, runesmiths can be pretty expensive. If you take them naked, they are still very cheap. But if you take him with just one rune, he's already up to 700. The main thing about these runes is that they cost 140 each. So if you take 3, that's going to cost you a dwarf warrior, which is pretty sucky. It's not the greatest thing in the world. But honestly, I think the biggest changes to dwarves is that we might see some kite play, possibly. I don't know if people will make it work. And I think the boxes are going to be a lot scarier. Thorek with his AoE buffs and AoE damage is going to make it a lot scarier. Plus the flash bombs will make chariots have a very hard time. Now let's go ahead and just do another test real quick. I want to see how well the Rune of Wrath and Ruin does against these Chaos Warriors. If you take a look at the wind-up time too, it is fairly long at 3 seconds. Plus there's an animation. So it is fairly dodgeable, and against loose formations, it only takes out a quarter of their HP. And doesn't get a lot of value. So even if you cast this like 3 times before the battle starts, you only get 450 gold value, which is nothing to scoff at, especially on a unit that's 700 gold. But it's still not crazy, as far as I can tell. Felix versus Siggy? He should do worse. He has worse stats than Gotrek by a rather large margin. He does have anti-infantry of plus 20, so I guess he could. Let's see, he can't helping hand himself though, which really sucks. But you know, if you take Felix with Karagul and put him up against Sigvald, he can probably do okay. But I don't think Felix got any changes, and people only sometimes take Felix here. The problem is he routes off really easily, and dwarves currently don't have a lot of leadership buffs unless you're taking Grombrindle or something. Or I think the Rune Lord might have it. But looking at Thorek, he actually doesn't have any... He doesn't have any damage or leadership boosters, sadly. So he's actually not as good as before. Alright, Sigvald, attack Felix. There we go. But, you know, you can give Felix insane melee attack values. Because Karagul gives him plus 40. And then you can get another plus 25. And then another plus 25. So he actually does fairly well, especially considering how cheap he is. But as soon as Karagul will, as soon as this ability times out, he's not as good. Didn't know there was a live Greenskin nerf. Yes. Greenskin's Fanatics need to be in combat for 15 seconds. Grom's abilities got nerfed in various different ways. Skirmishers are more expensive now, and that's about it. Forest Goblin Spider Riders are more expensive, but Boar Cavalry is up to 70 speed. Those are the changes for Greenskins, and I think we might be seeing more builds that look like this from Greenskins instead of this plus this. But honestly, Wolf Rider Archers still can get above 400 gold value, so we might still be seeing them. But at least it will be in fewer numbers. But that's about it. I don't have any of the Lizardmen DLC stuff. Unfortunately, that will have to come at a later day. And for the... what are we looking at? For the Beastmen, yes. They do have a couple new fun things. Malekith, he flies now, and he has a different ability set. So he can Penumbral Pendulum, this Flock of Doom. That's about it. That's Malekith. And if you want old Malekith, you can just take a Brave Shaman of Wild. And he has more or less the same loadout. That's correct. The patch is not live yet. This is beta. It's subject to change, so be ready for that. But yeah, that's about it. Morathi needed buffs, apparently so. But I think Dark Elves as a faction could use some buffs, so I'm not too bothered by it. Are there Lizardmen price changes as well? There are. So Lizardmen got changed in the Ancient Salamanders. They cost less by quite a bit. Solar Engines are more expensive. Red-crested Skinks are less expensive. Chameleon Skinks are more expensive. Lots of price changes there. I think overall Lizardmen got a bit of a nerf though, because Chameleon Skinks were pretty core to many Lizardmen builds, but they still got Pterodon Riders. I don't think they'll be out of the meta by any means. Spider Rider cost was an important one. I think so. Greenskin builds are going to be a lot more expensive now. Like if you took you know, an old school Greenskin build, something like this, like a lot of people would take this as a base for their builds, and this is a price change of 200 gold, which although large, or although not insane, it is still significant. It means you know, if you have Grom, you would cut, that's like a lucky banner's worth of money, or an axe of Grom. So it is pretty impactful, I would say. Plus Grom got his nerfs too, his abilities, so I think greenskins, they won't be as prevalent as before, with the biggest changes being to the 8 peak loonies, who actually will have a very hard time getting their value now. If let's see, so I did hear for the 8 peak loonies, you can do something like this, where you embed them in another unit of infantry to have their cooldowns come back a bit faster. But I still think the nerf is pretty heavy. Let's see, we're gonna, you think due to the range of spells being bugged at the moment, it's due to the range of spells. Poison at 9%. Oh yes, yeah. The fact that Soul Sealer hits clip models is huge. I think so. I don't know if they plan to change that. In fact, I don't really know what they're planning at all, but yeah, anyways. Fanatics, they have to be in combat for 15 seconds. And then they can throw their Fanatics. So then that's fairly similar, but then they have to be in combat for 45 seconds. And even with the Fanatics embedded in these Black Orcs, you can see they've already taken half of their HP and damage. So a single Burning Head would pretty easily ruin the days of these 8 peak loonies, and I don't think they'll nearly do as well as they did before, because before people would leave them outside of combat and then get all of their Fanatic casts, but now it is much harder. And to get the third, they are so beat up they can't even cast it. So I would say it's a pretty heavy nerf on the Fanatic front, plus the minus 200 gold, all fairly impactful. Do we know if there were any high elf changes? By the looks of it, not many, but the unit cards look different. Silver and guard, a little bit less blue, a little bit more silver. Background is different. Rangers have a different look too. Lions of Trace are the new unit card pictures, but otherwise it seems more or less the same. Looking forward to invisible double solar salamander though. Is that a thing? Can he stealth salamanders? That seems pretty fun. I know nothing about the new Lizardmen and Beastmen units, so if that's what you're here for, sadly I do not have any info on that front. But it looks like high elves are more or less the same. I'll take a L'Ariel with no abilities, and you can let me know if she's any cheaper or more expensive. She costs 600 with nothing. That's about it. But yeah, that is about it. Now, in a bit, I do plan to get some actual multiplayer battles going, but I have no idea when that will be possible. It could be much later today, but that is on the roadmap. So that's the plan. I will be doing a bit of that for sure. You swear CA hates high elves more than the Dowie do? Which faction does CA not hate? Let's be honest, you know. They hate Beastmen. They hate Coast now because they nerfed them. Vampire counts because they don't get a lot of updates. I'm sure you can make an argument for anything. Loons are cheaper? Lions are cheaper? Are they? Where are the lions at? No, they look about the same. 850. I'm pretty sure that's how much they costed before. They look the same. At Enticity, you don't think nerf for greenskins is an indirect buff for Vampire Coast? Actually, in the current meta, Vampire Coast has their advantage again against greenskins. The working build right now is double gunnery white for Grom, Noctilus on his Necrophex for skirmishers, and then mortars for archers. And you're more or less set. So I don't think that really changes anything for Coast, but they did increase the price of the ROR zombies because they have Frenzy, and they didn't get the melee attack nerf. So these guys are 2 melee attack more effective than they were before. Absolutely insane, but yeah, not really a big difference. I barely run these guys anyways, so that's not huge. They rushed Rakarth, I guess. Let's see, they love Skaven. Oh, that's true. That's true. You can make an argument for that. Good old Skaven. But any Coast buffs? I don't think so. Vampire Coast. In fact, they got nerfed a bit. If you take a look at Noctilus with his usual kit, this is usually what people will be running with Noctilus. He is 20 gold more expensive. Why, CA? Why? What am I going to do without the 20 gold now? But that's about it. No big changes there. And that's just because of the spell changes. Alright, yeah, I know, 20 gold, insane. But yeah, I think that more or less covers everything. I think the Beastmen units are more or less the same. Are these guys cheaper? These guys look cheaper. At 575, that seems out of place. I'm pretty sure they're cheaper now. Let's see, Razorgore Chariots. Did this get a price change too? Did it used to be 1200? This might have gone a price change also. Oh, hey, look, Sigor is minus 50. Guys, we did it. Beastmen are in the meta now. Look at these cheap Sigors. Amazing. All right. How about Lizardmen? Well, we already looked at the Lizardmen price changes. With a 20 gold nerf, you can't afford that uprank for zombie in your default Coast build. I know, it's terrible. Absolutely terrible. Razorgores were 1000. Oh, they nerfed them then. RIP. RIP Beastmen. Is it because, did they change Primal Fury at all? We may never know. They were 1000. Brutal. Wow, these guys got a huge nerf then. What happened? CA. Oh my gosh, they're nerfing the factions that they're giving updates to? Insanity. But anyways, I think this new set of casters is pretty sick for Beastmen. Caster Lords, always pretty nice. Mogre. Is he more or less the same? Seems more or less the same, unless I'm missing something. At least they got Tuskgores. Yeah. I haven't seen many of the Beastmen new units, so I would not know. They have Primal Fury at the moment. What, Razorgores? They do. +5 melee attack, charge bonus and speed, immune to psychology. Why did they not have before? It seems like they just got flat nerfed, but this honestly feels a little bit strange. But I won't question it until I actually get to see the meta. What about Bestigors? Leadership in particular. Bestigors have 66 leadership. Still seems fairly low. Primal Fury got buffed. Oh, what was it before? Right now it's 5 melee attack, 10% to the mobility and ITP. The leadership thing is the same. Disabled when your leadership is low. Oh, question mark? I don't know if Primal Fury got buffed, but if someone can check, that would be nice. They are the same. Oh, rip. He has a Mortis engine? Who? Who has a Mortis engine? What, the new Beastman Lord? Mogre? Mogre has a Mortis engine? No. I wouldn't think so. Wasn't it 12% speed before? CA, they have done quite a bit of changes to round out a lot of these numbers. They've been doing it so that the numbers are usually 10 or 5 by the looks of it. They did the same thing with Frenzy, so I guess it's just part of their I'm not sure why they did the changes, but you know, whatever. Whatever. All right. Let's see, the stats are a little different on what, the Razorgore Chariots? Maybe they got a little bit buffed. Their bonus versus infantry is 24. The AP damage is 34. Perhaps Razorgore's got some changes. Charge was 8%. Speed was 12%. Okay. I see. 66 leadership, 150 gold infantry. Oh yeah. Yeah, poor Bestigors, right? But they still do good against dwarves. You still see them in competitive, so they're not a complete meme. Plus 10 melee attack, plus 2 melee defense on the Razorgores or the Bestigors. I assume... Well, actually, I'm not sure. I assume the Razorgores. They said they increased their mass. Oh, maybe we should test it out then. Let's take a look. Also, I'm going to need to contact CA real quick, or at least a representative. Because I need to see if I can stream multiplayer battles. Any changes to the Loyal Sons of Sigmar? I'm pretty sure they're the same by the looks of it. Alright, here we go. Let's see their mass. Look at that. Alright, they pushed through Chaos Warriors fairly well. That went pretty smoothly. Let's see if they get stuck. So now they're not moving completely. And look at that. Look at that. These chariots, they do a decent job pushing through Chaos Warriors even when they're stuck. Like it can make a 90-degree turn and they'll sort of just push their way through. I feel like I'm not sure if this is how it was before, but at the moment it feels fairly easy to move around. So if they did get their mass buffed, does seem to exist. Like even against like tons of Chaos Warriors, it looks like they're sort of just moving over them instead of pushing them around and getting stuck on the mass. So who knows? Maybe there were mass changes. Okay, well, okay, test done, more or less. I'll do a double check on the Sons of Sigmar for you. You heard that it was a Jabber Slight that got a Mortis effect. That'd be pretty terrifying. Beastmen with the Mortis engine up against dwarves. I imagine that would be very good. Check out Ironbrow's Expedition. No campaign exclusive units. RIP. Very unfortunate. All right. pretty sure the Mortis engine is in Mogre's skill tree. Oh, I see. Yeah, I would imagine it's not in multiplayer, at least by the looks of it. They've added mass to pig chariots. Yeah, it seems like it. Beastmen chariots seem definitely fishy. They literally don't stop passing through their own infantry blobs. Yeah, they just sort of phased through those Chaos Warriors. So maybe this price increase is very warranted. Mortis is most important versus vampire accounts. Oh yeah, that would be huge. Maybe Warriors of Chaos, I think so. But we'll see. I don't have the Jabber Slide here, so who knows? Who knows? Sorry, just double checking some stuff. But yeah, I think that's more or less all the changes. If you guys don't have anything for me to test out, I can more or less end the stream and then see if I can stream some multiplayer battles later today. Let's see. All right, so just continuing to bounce some messages back and forth. I really want to show off some multiplayer battles so that I can play some dwarves and test out to see if these crazy speed strats are actually viable. But we'll see. I might not be able to. For reasons. Pig Chariot's Mass buff 2. Oh, did they? Let's see. Greenskins. Pig Chariots. Are they finally usable? Where are they? Yeah, Orc Boar Chariots. This unit is basically never used, and it's a really cheap chariot at 750. That's just as good as any other chariot. And if they have 70 speed now, it means that they're comparable to, or at least more comparable to the, Chaos Chariots. So let's see. You wonder if it applies to all chariots? Yeah. Alright, so let's just get these guys stuck up on some units. Hold them 90 degrees. And yeah, I think they're not pulling through as well as the Razorgore chariots, but they do pull through. Like, this is without an attack animation. They seem to have a fairly easy time pushing through. But I'm not entirely sure. I'd have to test this out in game. It seems like these guys are getting stuck a little bit easier though. I'm not entirely sure though. All right, so cool. Let's see, you think it's just the Beastmen Orc Boar Chariots? I'm not sure if they act differently though. Maybe I'll have to test first Dwarves, since Dwarves are generally fairly high mass. Let's go ahead and throw in some Dwarf Warriors. One of you guys is gonna have to test out in a custom battle for me and let me know if I'm just going crazy or not. It seems like the Razorgore might have a little bit more mass, but I never really used chariots, so I could just be insanely wrong here. You wish they had all the stats available, like mass and accuracy? That would be sick, but for now we'll have to rely on Total War Warhammer stats. Oh, now this is interesting. These Dwarf Warriors braced for the charge, and the chariots still push through, which is... usually they just sort of plonk right against the dwarf formation, and the fact that they sort of just went right through it is actually fairly significant. But you can see right here, this guy's getting trapped up by dwarf warriors pretty hard. So it seems like maybe it could just be chaos warriors. Yeah, look at this, he's barely moving. And he does finally escape, but I don't think Chariot Mass is going to be insane or anything. They will still get caught up by the looks of it. At least the boar chariots. Maybe the Razorgores are different. Did Troll Hag or Vindictive Glare get any nerfs? Oh, yes. I totally forgot, guys. I totally forgot. I'm so sorry. Guess what, guys? Vindictive Glare got nerfed. Let's take a Archmage on an Eagle real quick. And this is actually insane. This is one of the biggest nerfs I have ever seen to an ability. Now, as some of us know, Vindictive Glare does insane damage to unarmored targets, and specifically in the matchup against High Elves, Vindictive Glare is such a pain right now because it can basically 3-shot your lords. But if we have an Archmage of Death on an Eagle, we overcast Vindictive Glare for 7 winds of magic. We're going to see right here how much damage it actually does, and that's it. That's how much damage for 7 winds of magic. It takes off the tiniest sliver of HP. Loopy saying take her on a horse. I will. It's not going to be much different because Vindictive Glare is actually a little bit garbage now, guys. It does so little damage. Like, I think I would rather take anything else, but because it costs 7 winds of magic. That was overcast. It does nothing. Absolute just nothing. It's insane. Oh man, this plus the Fanatic nerfs are probably the biggest like difference in power level from how the units were before. So increased armor piercing damage by overcasting it. Let's go ahead and fire it away. And look at that. Oh hey, look at that. We did get a little bit more damage this time. That was overcast though, but there we go, a little bit more damage. So Archmage of Death actually decent. So that's really strange then, because on the Eagle it did basically nothing. So let's test that out again, because I tried this earlier and it didn't do as much damage. Let's go ahead and test this out. Okay, yeah, so on a horse it is slightly better. Not as garbage then. All right, but let's see how it goes against. Now remember, it used to do more damage, which is the crazy part. But if we put her on a chariot, it has 110 armor, so presumably Vindictive Glare should do a lot less. But even before, it would do decently against armor. Yeah, on a horse it did much better, surprisingly. And I'm not sure why, because all the missiles hit earlier. Okay, let's test this out on a chariot. Vindictive Glare, and much less. So, you know, if you're really worried about Vindictive Glare, you can take a chariot, and you should be fine. But it very clearly does a lot less damage than it used to. And at 7 winds of magic, it's not as good as Fireball spam, I would say. In fact, I don't even know if it's better than Spirit Leeches. Overcast was 7 winds of magic, so I guess it is a little bit cheaper. Was it 11 before? I'm not sure. It was like that for chariots before too. I see. But yeah, there you go. So avoid the horse, but for some reason on an Eagle it doesn't do a lot. Before, Vindictive Glare was very effective versus Eagles, so I'm not sure what changed on that front. Maybe the AoE damage is not happening. Missile spells like Vindictive Glare have an impact hit, and it also has an explosion hit. So I'm not sure, but whatever's happening, it's making the Archmage take basically no damage on an Eagle. So who knows? Who knows? Eagle has a weird hitbox. Yeah, but it would still do really well before. I have sniped many an Eagle with Vindictive Glare. So there you go. Put him on an Eagle and you should be fine. In fact, I think dragons should also be fairly safe too. Maybe shoot it later, maybe. Let's go ahead and throw a dragon in there too. Let's see, let's get a sun dragon, why not? I think Wood Elf Dragons or like Sisters of Twilight, it would be a good test, but we'll see. Yes, that's correct. It does like 300 to 400 damage. Or it does 300 to 400 to the Eagle total. All right, test Vindictive Glare against dragons. Here we go. Not very much at all. In fact, barely any damage. All right, let's do one more test against the Eagle Lord when they're closer and see if that makes any change. But if it doesn't, then it seems like the age of Vindictive Glare snipes it may very well be over, guys. So it's like Shen's. There you go. That's a closer shot. It did a little bit more damage, but nothing too crazy. It's not as overwhelming as it was before. Let's see. So it's like Shen's Burning Gaze that you don't deal a lot of damage if you shoot them from a weird angle. Oh, maybe. Is that how Shen's works? I barely take Shen's Burning Gaze, so I would not know. But yes, that is more or less all the changes. I'll give it a quick second to see if anyone in chat has questions. But if not, then I will probably end the stream and get ready for a possible multiplayer stream. In fact, let's see. Let me see. I might be able to get some multiplayer battles going right now, actually, guys. Just give me a quick second to see. All right, yeah. Let me send some messages, and if I can get a multiplayer game going, that would be sick. Okay, so message is out, and we will see. If not today, though, I should be able to get some multiplayer games in the future. Possibly tomorrow with some of the ECL members, perhaps. Do I think Dowie will get more decent matchups? Honestly, I'm not sure. The spells are so they're very strange, and the master engineers of flash bombs, it's very much like Mither. And right now the AoE is absolutely bonkers. Just insanely bonkers, because you can hit basically half of an army with it. But right now I think dwarves are still more or less the same, though. Like they're just sort of more effective at what they do, and they'll have some better builds. The biggest change that I'm sort of looking at is the matchup against high elves, because Thorek can really, with his speed buffs, you can outrun eagles even when you're tempested. So one thing that you could see, like if you have a L'Ariel on an eagle with Tempest, and then they also take an eagle, this is actually a fairly easy army to kite with Thorek's buffs. So we'll take Thorek, we'll take 2 engineers, and then some gyrocopters, and we'll see how well we can kill eagles here, because it's pretty crazy. All the other dwarf lords seem the same. There are no notable differences that I could find. You don't understand why people like dwarves, nothing against them, but just seems random for that to be their favorite one. I guess. You know, people have different preferences. It's play style. But, you know, people enjoy different colors too, more or less arbitrarily. So I'm not too confused by the fact that people enjoy Dowie. Although some of the playstyles are pretty cheesy. All right, now here we go. So I'm going to give the speed boost to all of the gyrocopters, which means that these guys can safely fly out of a tempest like it's nothing. And then we'll see if I can kill these eagles. They are still fairly fast, so it's not like I'm having a freebie on the eagle kills here. But what I can do, I can flash bomb a L'Oreal because it does actually target the air, and it seems like it's doing okay. Even though like I ate a tempest with 3 of my gyrocopters, it wasn't too difficult to take out an eagle with this sort of strategy. Plus I can throw down another flash bomb on a L'Oreal, and now she basically can't move. Tempest is on cooldown, and the other eagle has routed off at this point. So if I were high elves, I'd be a little bit worried, I think, because if 2 eagles and tempest can't beat gyrocopter style of play, it's gonna be more difficult for high elves for sure. And then we can see here I'm now chasing them off, and I haven't lost any of my gyrocopters. And then after that I can restock them with ammunition to kill off the rest of the high elf army. So it's probably gonna be a little bit scary. We'll see though. I'm sure high elves can bring some other forms of anti-air defense, possibly more archers. Let's see, does Flamespire Phoenix have fire resist? Yeah, you could bring a Flamespire Phoenix, and the Brimstone guns won't be nearly as effective, so perhaps that's a strategy too, but I'm not sure. Does it do magic damage? It does, so it's less effective versus gyrocopters too, but still I think, you know, if Dwarf air game, if the Dowie air game is super scary, perhaps this is an option. But I really have to experiment with it before I can make a call on it. You'd assume a relatively equal distribution, but dwarves seem to be overrepresented. If you have data, I would be happy to see it. But it's obviously, you can't trust speculation. I need raw data that shows that dwarves are played more often by people. And then after that, then we can talk. But yeah, so that's this is probably the biggest difference that I could see. Thorek with speed boosts, and then engineers with the 2 flash bombs. I feel like this setup could be a new scary type of dwarf build. Not to mention they can also do boxes with iron breakers and replenish their ammunition. And during a long, prolonged game with boxes, if they can get multiple volleys off, it is just insane value. And if you want to focus mostly on cheaper blasting charges, the Orcon miners will be able to do that too. Not to mention, there's also the Irondrakes that you can give speed with Thorek, and this will also combo with the engineers. Really the biggest difference now is that the dwarves have a lot of mobility, a lot more mobility than they used to have, especially with rangers. With 33 speed, they can outpace most infantry in the game, and a lot of chaff that would give dwarf problems before can now get countered by the Rune of Wrath and Ruin if they are not careful. So I'd say dwarves could potentially be very scary, but we'll have to see how it actually plays out, because in the meta right now, before this patch, they aren't really seen that much in competitive. Way more people like factions on the weaker side, more people like greenskins before their DLC. Now most people dislike them. Yes, I think it's more so people don't enjoy strong factions, and I get it. It's because of you don't want to see the same faction every time. Not to mention greenskins would have a very similar playstyle between different matches, and I think it just got a bit stale for many people. Normal runesmiths don't get the full rune loadout. They are actually just as effective as Thorek, which is sort of strange. So they can overcast the runes too. And then the question is, why would you take a Rune Lord if you can take a Runesmith? I guess if you want to go cheap on the Lords, but yeah, essentially you can just take a Runesmith for much less money. 300 gold less. You can take a similar rune loadout on them. And then for your Lord, you can actually go for someone that can fight, like a Belagar. And you know, this loadout feels much better. Although, given how good of a fighter Thorek is, maybe you won't be running Belagar. I'm not sure. The question is, do you want to run a Runesmith and Belagar, or would you rather run Thorek? Thorek is much more expensive, but he does give mass, and he is a pretty good fighter. But Runesmith and Belagar do have more HP between the two of them, so perhaps this is just a better combo than Thorek. Although when you do put him on his anvil, he does give a map-wide buff, sort of like Imric's Dragonhorn, so I'm not sure. You thought only Lords could overcast? Well, guess what, Loopy? You're wrong. You're totally wrong. Let me show you an overcast rune from the Runesmith. You were tired of Spider Riders? I think most people are. Most people are tired of greenskins in general. But real quick, let's go ahead and get the Runesmith over here. You can see the overcast options are here, and they appear to be just as effective as the Rune Lord. We cast this onto the archers. Look at that, very good damage, but its range is half the range of high elf archers, so it's not like you're gonna easily be casting it if they stay nice and far away. But still, against low armor, dwarves have such a good tool now with Wrath and Ruin. Specifically against goblins, I think that's going to be the scariest part. Because take a quick look at this. Take a quick look. Nasty Skulkers, 500 gold worth of AP damage. One of the most effective tools, or most effective cheap infantry options for greenskins. Now that the Fanatics are gone. And we're going to see how well the Rune does against them. Let's go ahead and throw that here. They could react in time, but assuming that they don't, it is about 50% damage even when they are a little bit pretty spread out. It gets them on the verge of routing, and if we send these miners into combat, this should be much more representative of what you would expect from a Wrath and Ruin on top of these nasty Skulkers. So you can see the cast time is still fairly long, but there we go. It is still quite strong. And I think this is probably the biggest change for dwarves. The fact that they don't have to worry about red-crested skinks nearly as much, and cheap goblins, it's terrifying, guys. Absolutely terrifying. Enticity, is this making you into a Dowie main again? Yes. I am going to play so much dwarves because the fact that you can give your gyrocopters 150 speed means that the skill ceiling for dwarves is just so much higher now. The fact that you can potentially kite with them is really exciting. And the new rune system, although some of the runes got nerfed, the fact that you have so much versatility is very fun. Specifically this rune of Oath and Steel, there were a lot of high elf and wood elf archer builds that would attempt to kite. And the fact that you can give armor now to waste their ammunition it's great. Let's see, Slayer Doggos 2. Oh yeah, I didn't show any Speedy Slayers yet. So let's go ahead and bring up a situation where you would want some very fast Slayers. Usually it's against Jezzails. And, you know, you'll have your unit of Slayers that are trying to catch them. Now, right now, Jezzails will outpace Slayers, but with the new speed buff, we will see, can they catch the Jezzails easily? We shall see. So here we go. We've loaded into the battle. And let's go ahead and get the Slayers are running. Now, the slow, yeah, Rune of Slowness. Its range is only 100 meters, which actually does make it very slow. But you can overcast the Rune of Speed to give 30 seconds of speed boost. And that means these Slayers are going to go from 40 speed to 58. Now, these Jezzails, they have 38 speed. And we'll see if the Slayers can catch them. A little bit of a cancelled command there. The Slayers stop chasing. But they do still have 14 seconds of the speed buff. And you can see if the Jezzails don't run away fast enough, they will eventually get caught. And there we go. Nice and simple. Jezzails do get caught. Slayers, they get some pretty nice damage on them. And they have a little bit less speed because their leadership is no longer high, so they lose their 10% speed. So it's fairly good. Yeah. So there you go. Boom. Slayers. Decent catch, but I don't think it's insane. Specifically because it only lasts for 30 seconds. In a prolonged battle, if the Jezzails start running away early, I think they should still be okay. But it's definitely a buff for the Dowie. Let's see. Now cast the regular rune. 76 speed Slayers. Wait, can you stack it? Wait a second. Wait a second. Can you stack the speed runes? I feel like you can't. I feel like if you overcast and undercast, it doesn't do that. But if it does, that would be insane. Overcast? Okay, yeah, let's try that out. Let's try that out real quick. Because if that's the case, then I think it's actually insane. Okay, so that's an overcast. And then a normal cast. Oh my god, it's true. Never mind, guys. Dwarves are gonna be broken. Look at that. 76 speed Slayers. These guys are faster than cold ones. They're faster than boar cavalry. Oh my gosh. That's actually insane, guys. Now it does only last, 18 seconds. But that's actually hilarious. I gotta try this with gyrocopters real quick. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. That's insane. That's actually insane. And here I was thinking, 150 speed was fast. Try 200 speed. Oh, too fast. Too furious. It's gonna be insane. You might have to check it versus actual cavalry to see if animations cap the speed. Oh, yes, potentially. Potentially. All right, so we got the gyrocopters. All right, now remember it is easier to hit multiple units with the speed buff now. So here we go, 150 speed, and now 200 speed. Look at that. Although I'm not sure if this actually is 200 speed. It could be. They might be getting capped on their speed. Because although 200, it says 200. I don't know if these guys are actually moving that quickly. Yeah, and it seems like it did cap out, unfortunately. Darn it. Darn it. But the 150 speed is still fairly nice. Specifically against the slow of Tempest. But that's about it. Cool, cool. I think rune stacking, I think speed rune stacking, it doesn't seem to be working out as well as you might expect, but I'll double check against cold one cavalry to see if I can make my slayers actually outpace them. Because if they can, that would be quite nice. That would be pretty sick. Here we go. Let's take a unit of slayers. Take a unit of cold ones at a mere 66 speed and see if we can run away from them. For the slayers, it looked more than 58 speed. Yeah, they did look like they were moving quite fast. Can you bring two of the same rune? Currently, yes. In the banner rules and presumably quick battles too. But let's see here. All right, so we got some cold one riders here. We got the slayers, and then they're getting caught by the cold one riders. But activate insane speed mode, and let's see. Running away, it looks like the cold ones are still keeping pace fairly well. The slayers, they are. Oh, I don't have both runes going. Whoops. Yeah, the thing is 18 seconds on the speed buff is really short. So it's actually not, it's not that great. And I'm sad that the gyrocopters don't move a true 200 at a true 200 speed. That would be glorious. But we'll have to make do. We will have to make do. All right, cold ones, get chasing. See if I can do this right. Come on, there we go. Okay. Okay, so let's see these slayers. Apparently they're moving at 78 speed. And it seems like they're fairly close to it. If you take a look at the cold ones, I think they get a bit of a charge bonus. Like while charging, units move a little bit faster. But I think they do get a little bit faster when you stack the runes. Although it lasts so little time. It's a bit of a meme, although it's still hilarious. Alright, but there you go. Yeah, they clowned us again. Oh my gosh, C-A-Y. Let's see, well, for slayers, yeah. Their engines would explode. Perhaps. Let's see. I wonder, there's a way to test this, so I'll take two gyrocopters. I'll give one the 2x speed buff, and I'll give the other one just a flat buff, and we'll see which one moves faster. This is basically how Tomb King's magic worked in 6e. I have never played 6th edition of Warhammer, so I would not know. All right, so here we go. Two gyrocopters. One of them has 2 speed runes, the other one has 1, and you can see here they are moving at the same speed. So unfortunately, speed stacking gyrocopters does not allow you to break the sound barrier. I'm sorry guys, but we have been bamboozled. But I will test to see if the normal speed boost is actually significant. Now, it is very big when you're getting slowed, but that might be its biggest use. So if I do this, overcast speed rune, and it is faster. Okay, so I'm not going crazy then. Yeah, so this one is faster, although I don't think it's 50% faster. It seems like it's capping out at it seems like it's capping out a bit, which is expected because 2 speed runes doesn't give it any more speed at all. But what is really big is that when you're getting hit by Tempest or a fermented fungi or any slows, the speed runes will counter that. So good to know. maybe the same buff doesn't stack regardless of overcast and non-overcast. It seems to be stacking with Slayers. And this can be tested too. We'll see how it works with Slayers. Perhaps it doesn't stack though, but the fact that it shows up as 2 icons makes me feel like it should. But we'll see. All right, and here we go. So, test number 1. We got Slayers. And we're going to give these guys 1 buff and the other guys 2 buffs. So these guys are buff stacked Slayers, and look at that, the runes, they do stack. If you have 2 of them on 1 Slayer, they will move slightly faster, but it does seem like they are capped out a bit because they are only moving slightly faster. I'd say these guys are moving like maybe 60 speed, 60 something. So it's not significant, and I would say it's not worth it to stack runes, but using them back to back is likely fairly good. Overcast Spirit Leech plus Hybrid Titan works too. That's pretty crazy, but yeah, that makes sense. Do Tomb Kings get changes? Let's double check. Infantry is the same, mobility is the same, monstrous the same, except for Necropolis Knights minus 25 gold, guys. We did it. Tomb Kings is OP now, and that's it. I think yeah, that's basically it. Tomb Kings is more or less untouched. Try Rune of Swiftness and Rune of Slowness combo on chariots. I imagine it's gonna be an absolute it's just gonna be murder, isn't it? Let's go ahead and get chaos. Yeah, so what you'll usually see here is if you have a chaos chariot and then the dwarves, you can bring Thorek and some dragonback slayers. And I don't even think you need the Rune of Swiftness here. I think just with the Rune of Slowness you'll probably be fine, but this is the same as Rune of Wrath and Ruin currently. So yeah, any Glade Guard nerf, the poison ranged, or Glade, our Glade Guard, the cavalry unit? Anyways, the poison one got plus 25 gold, the cavalry 361, and that's about it. No other changes, so here we go. These chariots have 8 speed now. If you hit them with the speed debuff and the Slayers, they will not be escaping anytime soon. Although when they routed, they actually started moving a lot faster, strangely enough. I'm not sure what exactly was going on there, but there you go. There you go. So Tomb Kings, no notable changes that I can tell. They kind of move with the chariot and don't attack before. I'm not sure what you mean, but anyways, I think that's more or less it for the testing. We'll give it another second to see if anyone has any ideas or things that they might want to see. But if not, I will end off the stream. And then hopefully we'll have some multiplayer games later. Let's see, Medusa. What does BVL stand for? Let's see, bonus versus infantry. Oh, I'll double check that and then I will close out the stream. And nice. So it looks like I will be able to cast some practice matches later. So that's the plan, guys. But for now, I will end off this stream. I hope you guys had a wonderful day. And I think I more or less covered everything. And yes, Medusas do have bonus versus infantry on their ranged attack now. but it's only an increase of 10. So perhaps not that crazy, to be honest. I guess, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this existed before. But anyways, that's going to be it. Thank you very much, guys, for tuning on in. And I will close the stream as soon as we catch up.